Hey everybody, welcome to another WOFOYO short. I'm C-Dub. Recently, Bones and I were having a discussion. It's going to be on the upcoming Tuesday episode of the podcast, where we were talking about, how you want to continue the mission if you don't know what the mission is. And he was talking about properly identifying our callings, properly identifying what we're supposed to be doing in the Lord, because we're failing to identify this a lot of times. And let me tell you, that theme has just been with me all this week. And not just spiritually, although it has been spiritually, but it is so far reaching in its scope. And this truth really is profound because this affects not just your spiritual life, although definitely applies, your personal life, your relationships. It affects your workplace. It affects your community. It affects this nation. But it's simply this: are you properly identifying what threats there are to you, to your country, to your family, uh, to your mind? Are you properly identifying what spiritual warfare aspects there might be? So in Ephesians 6, Paul goes, "Put on the whole armor of God that you might be able to stand against all the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places." And then he talks about what this armor is. But he's saying you're going to have to realize what we're fighting against. Now, that being said, again, this truth is not just spiritually applied, although it is something that is spiritually applied. It's not limited to that. So, if you want to get hemmed up in life, start trying to fight things spiritually that aren't a spiritual battle, or things that are a spiritual battle in ways that aren't spiritual. We need proper discernment. And what this looks like is you'll have a lot of activity, but you will fail to discern the root cause of all the problems. So you will never get to the root of the problem. You'll never be able to lay the axe to the root, as John the Baptist says. What this means is you could start trying to address surface behaviors. And if it's spiritually caused and you don't discern that it's a spiritual battle, these things keep resurfacing. Also, you can try and rebuke the devil all you want, but if it isn't a spiritual issue, if it's really a mindset issue or habits that you learned, you're just spinning your wheels. So it's important that we properly identify what is going on. And let me tell you, with the victim culture that's out there, it's constantly pointing, hey, this person's your enemy, this person's your enemy, this person's your enemy, this person is oppressing you. They've got a scale for who's oppressing who. And as long as you're doing that, and especially since a lot of times that's not even the case, now you're focused on what you can't control versus all the ways that you could help yourself by focusing on how to improve yourself. You're just mad at somebody else and you're being used while you do that. So you're losing that battle. There are so many ways this plays out. You could have a couple that's married arguing about money. But if the real issue is communication and trust, then the money's just the surface issue. You could have people trying to focus on second and third tier problems at work, but if you never address the root cause of why things are messing up, you're just throwing a lot of energy with very, very little results. A lot of time, a lot of emotional investment in it, but you never see the results. And you don't see them because you failed to properly identify the threat. You failed to properly identify the problem. Whenever we do use of force stuff and we're doing training, one of the things we'll talk about, assess the situation. What's going on? So I remember Rick Joyner over at Morningstar, he brought up something that a military guy who's been there, done that, was a member of Delta, ends up, he was teaching on spiritual awareness, and Rick just incorporated it to a whole bunch of things. And it's three questions: what's going on, what's not going on, and what am I supposed to be doing? These are questions that help you properly assess. If you fail to properly assess the root cause of why people are in poverty, you throw a whole bunch of money at it just to see the situation get worse. You never address the behaviors and the mindsets, the education level, and what makes for education that gets you out of poverty. And we don't talk about fatherlessness and all these other things because people are scared to. If you're distracted in a country, it looks like, hey, we're going to spend a whole lot of time fighting a war in a country that we said had weapons of mass destruction, to find out that they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. If you're distracted, and that's the other thing, attention span is an issue. It takes time to properly assess. And sometimes you don't have the time, but the more time you have, the better bead you're going to be able to get on that target. So I want to encourage you, think about what issues you're facing. It could be at work, it can be in your family, it could be personal life, it could be with your walk with the Lord, different things you might be struggling with. Pray about it. Always have that pen and pad nearby and ask the Lord, Lord, what's what's the real cause? What's the real issue? And then just get quiet before the Lord and write it down. And then test the spirits by the Spirit. How are you going to do it? Was that the Holy Spirit that I heard? Let's see how this plays out. And then you start to look, and then you start to pinpoint, and you go, aha, yes, this applies. And it's amazing if you will just get quiet, especially after prayer, after some worship time. Make sure you're balancing that with time alone with God. Find out, and He will reveal the root causes of what a lot of these problems that you're facing, whether it's corporately as a body or whether it's individually. The Lord, if you ask Him, the Lord will reveal these things to you. Make sure, no matter what environment you're in, that you're properly assessing and identifying the threat. That way you can properly engage, you can develop a proper strategy, and you know how to fight the good fight and not just launching missiles in the air that you don't know where you're aiming at. WOFOYO.